NERDSoul.
Yeah, late ill kid at OneYoungsta holding it down, bringing that street geek and nerd soul. That's right. This is an audio edition. We're coming to you super duper live. Well, actually, it's not really live, but I have been following, of course, the new iteration of Twilight Zone on my podcast for, the last few weeks, ever since it first premiered back in March. And I've been watching it with my lovely lady, Lisa. And we have just gotten to the finale. And, we figure we come in and throw our thoughts together. How we felt about the season finale, all that good stuff. Now, before we get started, to my right, Lisa, say hey.
Hey.
So, we just watched The Blurryman. We were talking offline for like a second about, kind of like, what you was feeling about the episode and all that. You weren't really feeling it when it ended.
No.
No. Not at all? Mm-mm. What about the beginning part? I thought up until the reveal, I thought we had some good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I like how they started it off. I like how it took a twist, where you thought it was just going to be a regular show. They kind of start the show and then Jordan comes in and, does the whole da-da-da-da-da, the Twilight Zone, and they go on. But then I love the way they did the twist and involved the set. You know what I mean? I liked that. And yeah, it just, for all that they did, with terrorizing her and everything, and to have it in that way, I was just like, huh? What? Y'all did a whole lot. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you this. I was satisfied with the ending. I won't say that I was like blown away by the ending. But I was like, okay, cool. You're bringing it full circle. You're bringing her experience with Twilight Zone full circle. I'm cool with that. I did think that the effect on Rod Sterling was a little, it could have used some work. They could have used some work from Disney on that joint. But I wasn't I was satisfied, but I wasn't blown away because the way the episode went, I really expected to see. I expected it to be more at the ending. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, either my thing is this: for everything they took her through in terms of her feeling like she was going crazy, and the whole Blurryman, and her running and hiding and being terrified and not knowing if this was real or imagined, and then at the very end, the basic message was you got to tap into your childhood in order to be successful in this business. Okay, so you took me through all of that for that to be the message. So you terrorized me pretty much in order to tell me I need to tap back into the love I had, pretty much for the Twilight Zone when I was younger. What? It just didn't match for me. It just didn't. I didn't feel a sense of satisfaction at the end of the episode.
Okay.
And I used to watch the original Twilight Zone when I was younger. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Me too.
I loved it because it was always a nice, pretty package. The beginning and the end, all of it was a nice, pretty package. The little message, pretty much at the end, meshed well with what went on in the beginning. It all made sense. This did not make sense. It was overdone for the message they wanted to get across in the end.
Yeah.
It was completely overdone. Like the beginning of this series started out really, really great.
Okay.
The first few episodes I think were pretty fantastic. And
cool.
Then I would say from maybe episode 4? How many episodes have there been?
I believe 10. I believe there were 10 episodes.
I would say, oh gosh, I can't remember exactly. Maybe episode 4, maybe 5. It's been going downhill.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of those episodes because I do want to talk about the season as a whole. Mm-hmm. Because I think ending on a note like this that makes it I guess you could say it puts a bit of a sour note because they go so hard into this Blurryman, and you're like, oh snap,
Yeah.
this is like a real thing, and then you find out that it's just it's Rod Sterling, which is cool. I like the fact that he's in every episode. I like that message that like his spirit, his soul, his essence is in every episode of the Twilight Zone. But the way they presented it was like, oh well, if that was the case, why would he do it like that? Why would he if he was coming to a writer, essentially to take that writer with him to continue narrating and, kind of displaying people's lives and stories in the Twilight Zone, why would he present himself the way he did in the final episode? It would be more of a educational piece than more of a horror looking piece.
Yeah.
And it would go to similar to what you said that you would have liked to see, which we were talking offline, but remember when you were talking about what you would have liked to see her go back over and over? Kind of break that down.
Yeah, I said a better idea for the message they seem to have been trying to get across was a better idea would be for her, to go back over and over again, trying to rewrite that opener that they wanted her to rewrite. And each time she's getting it wrong, or each time it gets worse and worse, simply because she's not tapping into her original love, for this genre that she seemed to have. And I think that would have come across or tied it all together much, much better than the whole just running around, because to me, I'm not a writer, but I would think that would be a writer's worst nightmare, is that you're constantly trying to get your ideas out and constantly trying to create, and it just gets worse and worse, and you're working against time, and your reputation is on the line, and all of these different things. To me, that would be terror for a writer, for a working writer. So yeah,
and with that said, that's why I think it probably would have been better. Like, say if they did it the way you said, it could end up, he wouldn't be such a horror person. He wouldn't be someone who's scaring her or kind of like stalking her. Mm-hmm. It would be more of like an educational piece. Like, she would get to the end of writing and the Blurryman would come and be like, nope, it's not ready. Mm-hmm. Or he would do something to let her know that you still don't get it. Right. And realizing once she taps into, that would be her like kind of crossover into the Twilight Zone. Yeah. And then him almost congratulating her instead of like scaring the bejesus out of her.
Exactly. I mean, it was, they did a great job with the whole, her being scared thing, because that whole thing was scary, and like Michael was explaining to me how sets are, is like you can feel like you are actually in a whole different place, when you're on set and everything, and that can be scary. And let me also say, I don't think if this was an episode where they're trying to kind of pay homage to him, what's his name again? Rod Sterling. I don't think this is the best way to do that, because I love the thing I love about the Twilight Zone, this Twilight Zone, is that it's formatted pretty much just like the old Twilight Zone. Mm-hmm. And so that in and of itself gives homage to him, because he was the show. Let's be real. If you watch that, you listened for his voice, you listened for that terrifying, creepy music. And without him, it wasn't the Twilight Zone. His voice, that monotone, deep, creepy voice in that music, it gives me chills even talking about it right now. So the way they kept that format here, to me, in and of itself, played homage to him and the show to begin with. To me, this was overdoing it, and it didn't focus enough on him to really be paying respects to him, if that's what they were trying to do.
Yeah. So, I'll give you that. Definitely. I was feeling the way the episode went the horror route, but then when they brought it to the end, I'm like, I felt like it didn't match. At all. But in all, how are you feeling about the season? Like, how are you feeling about the season? It's back. This is the first season back. How are you feeling about Twilight Zone? Are you like, yo, people should be tuning in, or people should be like, I'm cool, I'll just, watch something else?
Oh, I'm gonna be honest, it's hard to say, because I feel like, again, the first part of the season was great. I was really loving it. and then it just fell off on this last half. And so I don't know. I'm completely torn about it. It didn't for this to be the last episode. It's like I don't know what y'all trying to do, but you shouldn't have done
it. All right. Well, like I agree. Like the first episode, we had the comedian. And that was the one, you know, he's doing stand up and he starts to realize. That was the
very first one?
Yeah, that was the very first episode.
Wow, this went fast because it seemed like.
It was yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, that's the episode where he's like, he has to give a real piece of himself.
Yes, that was great.
Just extremely well done.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, I'm in this.
Yeah.
The second episode, Nightmare 3,000 Feet.
That was great.
I was digging that too. The whole thing with the podcast and like how he found it and looking at the date and
that was great.
Figuring out the numbers and all that stuff. And that was still cool. Even, you know, with the guy that turned out to be the pilot and all this weird stuff. And it worked out great. Replay was like, whoa.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Since you're a mother now, speak a little bit to Replay and like kind of your thoughts on it, like just the wanting to hold on to that camcorder forever.
Whew. You know, oh my gosh, maybe that is why it's one of my favorite episodes, is because of that whole thing. I could see the desperation. You know, that she had in terms of, okay, I'm seeing that holding on to this recorder is the way to kind of go back and fix what went wrong. And then I can figure out how to manipulate whether or not something goes wrong with this also. And it's a way of, I think it's every mother's dream, you know, with your child. It's like, you can't, the whole saying is I can't be with you all the time. I can't always be there to protect you. And this fixes that. You know, if I'm there and something goes wrong, or if I'm not there and something goes wrong, I can fix it. I can manipulate it. I can control it. And that episode is it's tense. You know, it's very, oh gosh. I can't explain it, but it's so good. Like it's an episode where you have to pay attention to every single moment. And I love stuff like that. You know, and it was, as a mom, I can't even imagine. You know, you're on pins and needles, and yeah, the desperation of holding on to that recorder is just like nothing else. It's like holding your child's future literally in your hands.
Yeah, and even the end of that was sort of sad. It was still one of those things where she had to learn, unfortunately, she had to let go. Like, you won't live forever, so you can't hold this forever. You've got to like let it go. And unfortunately, when she let it go, you know, that's when you heard the sirens at the end of the episode, and you kind of knew, you know, they in a off-camera way let you know, because he spoke about that evil always being there. But that's one of those episodes that were like very real.
But the episode, I thought, ended well because he ended up, you know, on campus.
No, remember, after he goes on campus, it shows them years later, and his daughter drops the camera and breaks it. And then see? And then when he leaves the house to get them ice cream, that's when you hear the sirens.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things where she just had to let go. And unfortunately, you know, knowing that kind of like you can't control this, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was a larger statement about, you know, the world we live in and crazy like stuff like that. I mean, and it's
that, you know, and I really love that, you know, Jordan Peele not really touched on that. He you know, he made it clear, you know, of what he was focusing on for that episode. And it's so funny because stuff that is going on, specifically that does feel like the freaking Twilight Zone, I guess it feels like the Twilight Zone for us, and then I imagine for like our parents and our grandparents, it feels like they're going backward in time.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother issue, but yeah.
And then after that, we had that episode, A Traveler. So that was the one where old boy from Walking Dead showed up in the middle of Alaska.
Yeah.
And that played on some racial issues as well.
It was good.
But yeah, that was good. It was funny.
It was funny.
Yeah, it was funny at many parts. Mm-hmm. It was good. It played on racism. It played on representing your people. It played on, how best to represent your people. Mm-hmm. Like, where should you work? How should you work? And also, your decisions on, your boss, or what you would do if you had an opportunity to let your boss get fired or whatever, it was.
Yeah. And it also touched on, how they had this sheriff who everyone seemed to think was just so great, and, everyone in the whole town looked up to him, and he was so great, and he almost presented himself almost like royalty, and come to find out he's doing all this shady stuff. Everyone loved him. Everyone trusted him. Everyone looked to him for pretty much everything, for the final. Yeah. And he was doing all this shady stuff, behind everybody's back, and it's just, to me, that was very interesting. It was a lesson in of that. Like, you can never put complete trust in any one person, and have blind trust. And they seem to all have just this blind trust of him and never wanted to question him.
Yeah, and then of course when all the secrets started dropping about people sleeping with people, that was a good episode. I liked it. Yeah. We had the Wonderkind, which was essentially the United States administration episode. With the
that was good.
The whole situation with that kid, it shows how social media and like YouTube and stuff can quickly sweep you up into someone's persona without really knowing who they are. And I mean, they dealt with dude from Harold and Kumar. I can't think of his name, but he's really dope because he was also in that film last year where he was looking for his daughter, but I can't remember his name. But anyway, you got him trying to get his job back, essentially. I mean, kind of, well, not his job back, but kind of like his status back.
I also like, in my opinion, this is my opinion, I like how it tapped into how kids now, and I think because of there's so much technology and social media that they are born into and enthralled into, they lack empathy for others. He had a total lack of empathy in general. He was out of touch with I think reality and consequences of his actions, and he lacked empathy. He was very manipulative. And yeah, I like how that was displayed also, because he came across as a really sweet kid.
Yeah,
to begin with.
At first he
and
did.
Then from there it went downhill, and that's part of the manipulation. And he was so enthralled, I think, in technology and immediate, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, like gratification, I guess?
Yeah, immediate gratification, that when he wasn't able to get that, he turned into this monster. And I'm sorry, but I believe that is a reflection of kids we have now because of technology, because of everything we've come out with. They can get whatever they want right now.
Yeah. And the way that episode ended was very telling. Yeah. But even that was fire. So like the first 5 episomes, we were digging.
Number 5.
Yeah, and number 6 Degrees of Freedom, I dug that one, where they had to go to space, or they thought they were going to space, but they were really being kind of like tested or monitored by aliens. And just the acting in that episode was top notch.
Yeah, it was good.
And you really had this sense of people slowly breaking down and slowly just losing it, because there was kind of like, I guess, no future for them in sight.
Yeah.
And it showed how people handle that, and I really dug it, man. Even at the end, because we started to get some aliens again. We got aliens in a traveler, and we got aliens and 6 Degrees of Freedom. But then episode 7, that's the one, Not All Men. Yeah. But I'll have you speak to this on this one first.
Just, I didn't appreciate how they twisted this with all of their might, bless their hearts. But they twisted this into a Me Too movement. And it's like, no. That's not what this is. Y'all are taking the wrong turn with this. Don't do this. This had nothing to do with that. And I didn't like the way they twisted it. I really didn't. I like the concept of, there is something, quote unquote, in the water, that's making them do this. And they didn't have to go into this whole, it's only men, would never be women. I didn't like that. They could have still made it that only the men were doing this, and they could have made it quite comedic. And it kind of was at some points how crazy the men were acting. It was very comedic, with how far they were going. But the way to twist it, and make it almost into like a branch of the Me Too movement, I didn't like that. I didn't like, because this had nothing to do with that per se. It had nothing to do with men being abusive. You can't on one hand say this has to do with what's in the water that's making them do this, and then turn it into, it's just men. I didn't like that. You can't, you're conflating the two, and I didn't like that.
Okay. Now with me, I was like, you know what? I'm not mad at this episode, but I feel like you guys didn't go deep enough. Like you just made men violent, but that's not what all Me Too situations, or that's not what all abuse is about. Like, it only dealt with like the physical violence, but there's emotional stuff, there's psychological stuff. There's, so I feel like they could have actually taken this further and made it deeper than what it was. It just showed other guys like kind of fighting with each other and being mean and angry.
Right. And I guess that's what I'm saying. If you want to go with the whole Me Too thing, then go with it. But you wanted to do that toward the end, they focused on that. But then you started off with something being in the water. Well, which is it? You know what I mean? Because the two together don't make sense. Is it the water? Or is it the issue with men?
It's like, if it only affects men, like how?
Right. Like, what y'all doing?
And now I will say this, at the beginning of the episode, that whole thing where she went over an old boy's house, she should have never went.
Well,
she should have
that's being the Monday morning.
Well, yeah.
Whatever you call it. But
yeah, because he did seem cool at the time.
Right. She worked with him. She knew him. So her going over there, we can't fault her on that. We can't do that. My only thing was her not leaving when she should have left. If I'm remembering the episode correctly, where
because he touched her, he like kind of like rubbed up on her like super early. Yeah, and she was kind of like, she kind of backed away, but she stayed, and that's probably when she should have cut it short then.
And also, she kept saying she had to leave, and she kept saying she had to leave, and she kept doing a whole back and forth with him when it should have been, I have to leave, thank you, good night, exit stage left. And she was doing a whole lot of humming and hawing, and I think most women have been in situations like that, and I think we need to tap in more to our instincts when that red flag goes off in our head, and it's like, you need to be out now. There is no reasoning with this dude. There is no going back with this dude, because he's determined he's going to get what he wants to get, and you need to be out while you can get out.
Yeah, definitely. Like, because you had the situation where I was just like, I'm looking, I was like, this thing is getting worse and worse. Yeah. And it's similar to that commercial we saw the other day where it was like this is a real situation or whatever. It had that guy like talking about her earrings. He said her earrings look nice, and then he leaned in and kissed her.
Yeah, it was like a late night you know, it was co-workers, or I don't know if he was her superior, but they were in the office late at night. You know, the lights were kind of dim or whatever. The office was dark. No one was really there. And it escalated very quickly, you know, to them talking and him complimenting her and moving in closer. Next thing you know, he kisses her. And it happens within, I would say, maybe 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah, it happens really quick, and it shows how fast something can get bad. But this episode, Not All Men, even though it has the funniest moment of the season with me, with her trying to blow that candle out from across the room. She's but this is where we start to see some slippage, where it's like, all right, episode 7, I'm not really on board all the way. I feel like they could have went deeper, and they could have really dug up some layers about what abuse is. And I feel like they left that on the table when they didn't have to.
Yeah, because I remember when it ended, we both looked at each other like, that's it?
Oh man. But then they do come back up with episode 8, which is Point of Origin, which I did like, where it showed, you know, the prim and proper family, and they have the housekeeper, and everything seems to look good.
That actually was pretty good.
Yeah. So it's like they slipped a little bit on 7, came back with 8, and they had Point of Origin.
Yeah.
And, you know, you get to see this kind of ICE immigration thing happen, but to, by all accounts, upper class, nice looking, everything, you know, on the up and up, you know, white lady.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that was probably one of the best episodes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this one because I believe I like the one with the mom and the recorder, but some people may not be able to relate. So I will say, if you have any type of empathy in your heart, honestly, you should watch that episode, if none other. And I'll say, even if you don't have any empathy, I don't think you can walk away from watching that and not be able to see the other side.
Yeah.
You know, that was put together so well.
And it showed how quick it happens. You know, she went to the store. Everything seemed cool. They shopping, you know, putting stuff in the cart. Now all of a sudden, boom, credit cards done. You know, cars rolling up. It's like Jeeps all over the place. They taking the kids out, opening the doors. You know, it was just, you know, and something that, you know, her and even some of her friends, well, not her specifically, even though she called her family, but her friends would be like, well, you know, that's what happens to people like that. That's, you know, why they shouldn't come here and stuff like that. And her finding out, you know, even talking to the young lady when she was in the jail, where she said, if we're family, what's my child's name? What's my, you know, you don't know, I know your children's names. Exactly. You don't know my child's name. Yeah. We are not family. You know what I'm saying? That's something that you say to help you feel good.
Exactly. Exactly. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel like a good person.
Yeah, but in no way are we truly family. So I thought that was dope. Then we get episode 7 and then episode 9, same thing, a missed opportunity in my opinion. The Blue Scorpion, I liked the setup, and I liked how, you know, he gets the gun and everybody's name is Jeff and everything. And you saw the name on the bullet. I thought that was cool. But after the resolution of the divorce, everything after that, I feel like they were just like, all right, well, let's just finish the episode.
Yeah, I didn't get what they were trying to say, because of course in each episode they're trying to say something, and I didn't get what the freak they were trying to say in this episode. And yes, the ending was absolutely horrendous. Like, what was y'all trying to say? You know, the message they said at the end was something about, you know, focusing on material things, and I'm like, this had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, it did kind of like, it was just like a random, I was like, huh, what? It seemed like it did kind of come out of nowhere. And I do like the fact of the gun or item, and even one of his students was talking about, like, she had a project about items having souls and spirits, and that was cool. And then, you know, having a name on a bullet, and, you know, this bullet being for someone, that was cool. the issue with the divorce, all that stuff was fine. But once they resolved the divorce, I was like, I feel like we needed more time to do this transfer from the gun to the child, or maybe have him just throw the gun out and then leave, and then maybe show the gun just wash up on shore and that's it. You know, like it just with the kids picking it up and then the statement about material things, it was just like, huh? I was just like, nah. I feel like it was a little slippage on that one.
It was a lot of holes in that one. It's almost like 3 different people were writing this episode that didn't talk to each other, and they just said, all right, I'm gonna take some of what you got, some of what you got, some of what you got. We ain't gonna read it. We just gonna go out there and do it. You know.
Oh man,
that's what it kind of felt like.
And then you got, of course, Blurryman, which we started with. The 10th episode, which, once again, about half of the episode I'm cool with, and then the other half I'm like, why? Like, why it don't go together?
Yeah, I guess in all fairness, how many episodes did we feel fell off? 2,
3. 3 episodes. So 3 out of 10. So it's 70%. So that'll put you at what, a C? 70% puts you at a C. So for a return to a show that has a storied history and is definitely the reason that we had, you know, any kind of, you know, anthology series since, a C isn't a bad place to start.
It's not. I guess I want more from Jordan Peele. You know, his standard, you know, he made us set the standards so high, you know, with what he's given us, you know, and so far. And so I'm hoping the next season will be more consistent throughout.
Yeah.
I'm definitely coming back to watch the next season. It's not like I'm like, oh, I'm done. Not by any means. I just felt like there were some episodes that were disappointing and confusing. But I'm hoping to, you know, the second season will be better, and this, you know, is just kind of a learning curve, you know, for the first season.
Yeah, and then I will say, I know that writing movies, there's at times less hands in the pot as when, you know, writing and kind of show running TV shows. But something I just noticed, I didn't know they had the full season in black and white. That's kind of cool. That's a whole different way to kind of like experience the season. You know, that's interesting. Like, I just noticed that.
Yeah, but I think there are only certain episodes that will work well for. Episode 4, that would have worked well for, because of how it's set up. Maybe episode 2, possibly. Yeah, 2. I think 2. Definitely point of origin with the, you know, like she was like in the 50s or whatever. It would have worked just fine with that one.
And maybe those 2, maybe those 3, like 2 or 3, they would have worked real well in.
The one with the gun, maybe.
Oh yeah, the Blue Scorpion. Yeah. So yeah. But it's interesting to see, like, wow, you know what I mean? I mean, of course, it's still black and white. It still doesn't look grainy and stuff, but it is a different way to like see, because I watched Logan in black and white. Since the digital version, you get a color version and a black and white version, because I think they did one of the trailers in all black and white, and it does give you a more bleak feel when you look at it. But yeah, that's how we're feeling about you know, Twilight Zone. It was good overall. It had some downs, but you know, it had some solid stuff.
But I'll have to say the highs were really high. You know what I mean? Like the episodes we loved. You know what I mean? And I guess that's what's weird about it, is it's like you're either an A or a high D.
Oh man, yeah, it was. Yeah, I'll give you that, because the ones that we don't like, they weren't horrible episodes, but it's like you get like this good half a episode, and then you're like, oh, well, what happened?
It's like the other writer, they switched to their script.
And it's like, oh yeah, you forgot that writer sucks. So no, I'm just playing. But yeah, with that said, yeah, that's how we're feeling about Twilight Zone. I'm glad it's back. You know, I have my memories of the matter of fact, I did want to add that in. what was it like to watch Twilight Zone, or how did you watch it when you were younger?
Oh, wow. Twilight Zone came on at an ungodly hour. I don't remember what time it was. All I know is I was supposed to be asleep. I was supposed to be in bed. Everybody else was in bed. I had a TV in my room. And so, of course, I had to turn it down real low to watch it. But I just remember it was really late. I remember it creeped me out, but I loved it. You know, it made me terrified. And I remember a lot of the times I would turn it down until the intro went off, because the music was so creepy.
Yeah.
I loved it, but I couldn't take it. It's like you're on a roller coaster. You're terrified, but you love it. You know, and I remember looking forward to it, but I remember that part where I have to turn it down. But I love the storylines. I love the creepiness of it. I just loved it.
Yeah, and myself, I talked about it a little earlier in the podcast a couple of weeks ago when it first came back. But yeah, like me and a friend of mine named Leon, I would go over his house, like it was like Friday night or Saturday night, and it would come on like 1 or 2 in the morning or something like that, something crazy. And we would have a big bowl of popcorn and we would sit there and watch it. And they would play Twilight Zone, and then they would play Outer Limits after it. And it used to we'd be there scared out of our minds, but also like enjoying it and loving it. And it was, that was just my memory. So it's like very fond memories. And I'm glad that it's back, because we got Black Mirror,
which I love.
Yeah. And we got Twilight Zone is back. And, maybe, if Twilight Zone is successful, maybe we can get, some other, HBO. If I was HBO, you out there, you got Hitchhiker. The Hitchhiker was a very similar series. And you got Tales from the Dark Side, man. Like, look, hey, HBO.
About Tales from the Dark Side.
Sorry, not Tales from the Tales from the Crypt, sorry. So, yeah.
Wasn't there a show called Tales from the Dark Side?
Yeah, but I think that was for someone else. I think someone else owed that. Oh, okay. I don't think that was HBO, but you got Tales from the Crypt on HBO.
Get into Tales from the Crypt.
It was so cheesy. It was like it was so cheesy that it was good. It was like it was B movie goodness like every weekend. But guys, thank you for hanging out. Thank you for either watching this on YouTube or listening on podcast, either one, because we try to hold y'all down. Now, before I get out of here, you got to check out NERDSoul. That's right, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Make sure to subscribe if you're on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up. If you hit that thumbs down, I'm going to send you straight to the Twilight Zone, of course. Now, you can also check me out on podcasts if you're like, I don't want to look at you then you can just listen to me. And if you don't like listening to me talk, maybe you might like listening to me rhyme. And check out NERDSoul on iTunes, on Spotify, all that good stuff. Hold your boy down. But
check
of course,
that out, y'all. His music. Check out his music. For real. Check it out.
Yeah, so of course, until next time, from us to you, we're just saying thanks for chilling with us and peace.
Bye.